Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajadana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajadana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banamsari Yamuna Tira Banamsari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajadana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajadana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe, Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada 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 Gaura Premanande Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Pri Vrajagachaja Stotra Satta Sri Simadhi Divine Grace Sirabai Charan Naravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Skandibiti Founder Charyas Divine Grace Sri Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Samavata Bhakti Vrinda Ki Harinam Sankirtana Ki Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and to Sri Gauranga. All glories to Sri Prabhupada Ki. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurindritam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sya Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabhadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakanditam Syam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite Tapta Kantana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Ram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayana Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Sri Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayasa badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhaviti Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental song, it becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahmasamitam Uttama Charitam Sakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swasyayanam Mahat. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God as Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Sarabhyaya Namaha Om Sarabhyaya Namaha Om Sarabhyaya Namaha Mukam Karoti Vasalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yat Kripat Mahabande Sri Gurum Dinatar Yat Kripat Mahabande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our morning Bhagavatam class. Reading from Canto number 1, chapter 11. Lord Kṛṣṇa's entrance into Dvārakā, text number
33.
Okay, 33. Yadi api asau parshva gato raho gatas tathapi tasyangri yugam navam pade ka virameta tat padach chalapi yach shrir shrir na jahati karhichit Yadyapyasau parshvagato raho gatas tathapi tasyangri yugam navam pade pade ka viramita tat padach chalapi yasrir najana Chalapi yasrir najahati karhichit Yadyapyasau parshvagato raho gatas Tathapi tasyangri yugam navam navam. Pade pade ka virameta tat padach. Chalapi yat shrir najahati karhichit. Yadyapyasau parshvagato raho gatas. Tathapi tasyangri yugam navam navam. Pade pade ka virameta tat padach. Chalapi yat shrir najahati karhichit. Yadyapyasau parshvagato raho gatas. Tathapi tasyangri yugam navam navam. Pade pade ka virameta tat padach. Chalapi yat shrir najahati karhichit.
Yadyapyaso parshvagato raho gatas. Tathapi tasyangri yugam navam navam. Pade pade ka virameta tatpadach. Chalapi yat shrirna jahati karhichit.
Yadyapyaso parshvagato raho gatas. Tathapi tasyangri yugam navam navam. Pade ka virameta tat padach. Chalapi yat shrir najahati karhichit.
Yadyapyaso parshvagato raho gatas. Yadyapyaso parshvagato raho gatas. Tathapi tasyangri yugam navam navam. Tathapi tasyangri yugam navam navam. Pade pade ka virameta tatpadach. Chalapi yashri nahati kahishit.
Karhichit. Karhichit. Not karhichit. Okay. Yadi. Although. Api. Certainly. Asau. He, Lord Sri Krishna. Parshvagataha. Just by the side. Rahahagataha. Exclusively alone. Tathapi. Still. Tasya. His. Angri Yugam. The feet of the Lord. Navam Navam. Newer and newer. Pade. Step. Pade. Step. Pade. In every step. Ka. who
who
virameta
Viramita
can be detached from
can be detached from
tat padat,
Tatvadat,
from his feet,
from his feet,
chalapi,
Shalapi,
moving, yet
Yet
whom Sri,
Sri,
the goddess of fortune,
goddess of fortune,
na,
never
jahati,
Jahati,
quits
quits,
karhichit
Karishit,
at any time.
at any time.
Translation and purport by Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Raghava Swami Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Although Lord Sri Krishna was constantly by their sides as well as exclusively alone, his feet appeared to them to be newer and newer. The goddess of fortune, although by nature always restless and moving, could not quit the Lord's feet. So what woman can be detached from those feet, having once taken shelter of them? Kindly repeat after me. Although Lord Sri Krishna
Although Lord Sri Krishna
was constantly by their sides,
was constantly by their side,
as well as exclusively alone,
as well as exclusively alone,
his feet appeared to them
his feet appeared to them
to be newer and
to be
newer
newer
and newer
and newer
and newer.
and newer.
The goddess of fortune,
The goddess of fortune,
although by nature
although by nature
always restless and moving,
always restless and moving,
could not quit the Lord's feet.
could not quit the Lord's feet.
So what woman
So what woman
can be detached
can be detached
from those feet?
from those feet,
Once having once taken shelter of them.
having once taken shelter of them?
Purport. Conditioned living beings are always after the favor of the goddess of fortune. Although by nature she is moving from one place to another. In the material world, no one is permanently fortunate, however clever one may be. There have been so many big empires in different parts of the world. There have been so many powerful kings all over the world. And there have been so many fortunate men. But all of them have been liquidated gradually. This is the law of material nature. But spiritually it is different. According to Brahma Samhita, the Lord is served very respectfully by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. They are always in a lonely place also with the Lord. But still the association of the Lord is so inspiringly newer and newer that they cannot quit the Lord for a moment, even though they are by nature very restless and are moving about. The spiritual relation with the Lord is so enlivening and resourceful that no one can leave the company of the Lord once having taken shelter of Him. The living beings are by constitution feminine by nature. The male or enjoyer is the Lord, and all manifestations of His different potencies are feminine by nature. In the Bhagavad Gita, the living beings are designated as para prakriti, or the superior potency. The material elements are apara prakriti, or inferior potency. Such potencies are always employed for the satisfaction of the employer or the enjoyer. The supreme enjoyer is the Lord himself, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita 5:29. The potencies, therefore, when engaged directly in the service of the Lord, revive the natural color, and thus there is no disparity in the relation of the potent and potency. Generally, people engaged in service are always seeking some post under the government or the supreme enjoyer of the state. Since the Lord is the supreme enjoyer of everything in or outside the universe, it is happiness to be employed by him. Once engaged in the supreme governmental service of the Lord, no living being wishes to be relieved from the engagement. The highest perfection of life, of human life, is to seek some employment under the Lord's supreme service. Is a job offer this morning. That will make one extremely happy. One need not seek the moving goddess of fortune without the relation of the Lord. Translation again. Although Lord Sri Krishna was constantly by their sides, as well as exclusively alone, his feet appeared to them to be newer and newer. The goddess of fortune, although by nature always restless and moving, could not quit the Lord's feet. So what woman can be detached from those feet, having once taken shelter of them? Very nicely described. Prabhupada uses very nice expressions referring to the different everyone in the material world who's on the bodily platform, and that's the vast majority of living entities, but the jiv, conditioned souls, conditioned by the false ahankar. So many such persons, the bigger the ahankar, the bigger the plans and the dreams of conquering. So Prabhupada uses the word here. Although so many big empires have come, so many powerful kings, so many fortunate men, all of them have been liquidated gradually. Liquidated means, what's another word for liquidated? If you have assets, you liquidate your assets to do away with. By nature, it means by nature, whatever one may acquire, at some point, we have to give it up because it is all material. The real assets. In Sanskrit, artha. Artha is asset, wealth, money. Dwit, they call. Anyway, there are different ways, different names. There is artha, then there is paramartha. The devotees of the Lord are not interested in artha, but they are interested in paramartha, the supreme wealth, the permanent wealth. What is tat, as opposed to what is sat, rather. Tat also. Tat sat. Sat as opposed to what is asat. Asat sanga tyaga. E Vaishnavasar. That is the special quality of Vaishnava. Asat sanga tyaga. Give up. Because by nature we are, as nicely pointed out by Srila Prabhupada, point which is clearly explained, nicely explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Not only is material nature prakriti, but also we as spiritual living entities are also prakriti. Para prakriti, apara prakriti. This concept, Prabhupada explains, actually prakriti means subordinate. And in the context of Krishna, who is he is the bhokta, bhoktaram jagyatapasam, he's the enjoyer. Bhoktaram jagyatapasam sarvaloka maheswaram, he is the, not only Ishvara, but he is the Maha Ishvara. We try to become the bhokta, we try to become the Ishvara, but we fail. Because that is not our position. So every living entity is, prakriti means subordinate, prakriti means feminine also, Prabhupada explains. Every living entity. There was a disciple of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, a couple actually, husband and wife. Mataji was initiated, but her husband was not initiated. He had various reservations about Krishna. Why Krishna? Krishna is like a vagabond. He's like, he's having so many girlfriends in Vrindavan, so many wives. He has that mentality, enjoying mentality, playboy mentality. So they had come to see Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he had asked questions or stated his reservations and why he was not as committed as his wife. And then the response given by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was that actually you just don't know or cannot understand Krishna. Krishna, he is, everything about Krishna is transcendental and spiritual. He's not like you and I. Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, the supreme enjoyer. Marrying 16,108 wives is nothing for him. All the living entities are actually are his parts and parcels. Namai Vangsho Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. They are all meant for his pleasure. All the living entities actually are created by him for his pleasure, isn't it? And when we don't know this or when we forget this, then we falsely try to imitate him. And then he pointed out, just like you think you're your wife's husband. I mean, your wife's husband, and you're trying to enjoy her. You're the playboy. Krishna's not the playboy. You're the false enjoyer. Krishna's the real enjoyer. So this is, of course, theoretically, we read about it. Theoretically, we can have some understanding. But the goal of life is to actually come to that point of really of realizing what it means to be like the queens of Dvārakā are described as goddesses of fortune. And just like Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi. Lakshmi, we know, is very chanchal. Those who are accountants especially, they know. You get money one day, right away, it's gone.
15 seconds. 15 seconds.
Money is like moving all the time. Doesn't stay at one place. But the goddesses of fortune, there's thousands and millions and billions of goddesses of fortune in Chintamani Dham, in the spiritual world. They are constantly fixed at the lotus feet of Krishna. And they consider their position and their service and their activities ever fresh and fresh, new and newer. Prabhupada uses that expression. So one who actually, this is a sign of someone who's actually advanced devotee. He's constantly either discovering or seeking to discover Krishna. Either discovering, experiencing, or endeavoring to discover so many different facets or aspects of Krishna or Krishna consciousness, because Krishna consciousness and the various activities and all the services that we are meant to be taking up are meant, when we understand properly, they are meant to bring us happiness, satisfaction. Susukam kartamavyayam. That is the nature of not only spirituality, but especially of devotional spirituality, isn't it? Devotional happiness. Material happiness, spiritual happiness, but devotional happiness. This is what, by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Vaishnavas especially, are hankering and endeavoring to develop this devotional happiness. That is the nature of bhakti. Bhakti rasa amrita sindhu. It is eternally. That is why, because it is of eternal nature, that is what we can take back. That is what, not take back, that is what we can take with us when we leave this body. That's the only thing. That is our link. That is our daily link. That is meant to be our daily, nutrition, food. Not only rasgullas and gulab jamans, but real, that is also, of course, spiritual. But we can't take our gulab jamans with us. But we can take bhakti. Bhakti means the transcendental mentality, mood, the transcendental realm, which is in terms of consciousness. Consciousness. We can take consciousness. So in this way, the queens of Vrindavan, the queens of Dvārakā, and the gopis of Vrindavan, they have similar type of mood and mentality in wanting to constantly be in service to the Lord, because they derive great pleasure and satisfaction. One should develop that mood and mentality that it is more relishable to serve prasadam to the devotees than to take prasadam. Who's serving prasadam? Yeah. So this is the mood and mentality that we should be hankering to develop, that we should gradually be developing. And it is only by developing such a mentality that we will not feel the pangs and hankerings and anxieties that material nature actually brings to all those who are endeavoring to enjoy separately from Krishna, to those who are trying to control and to become masters and to be lording it over, etc. That's not our position. And it takes a long time, many, many lifetimes, to actually come to that position because of our having endeavored to enjoy separately from Krishna for so many lifetimes, and also for having forgotten due to the long durations that are there, isn't it? The long durations that are there, unconscious. It's like every day also, when we think of it. What are the 4 types of annihilation that are described in the Bhagavatam? There's 4, I believe. When Lord Brahma sleeps every day, we become unconscious also. When Lord Brahma leaves his body, if we're still conditioned, we sleep for even longer time. And then at the end of this lifetime, when we leave this body, we again become unconscious. And every day when we go to sleep. So we suffer from a lot of unconsciousness, long periods of unconsciousness, where we totally forget, isn't it, our identity. And as Prabhupada would nicely explain, the conditioned soul, he's caught up in his night dream and his daydream. Nighttime we forget daytime, we forget nighttime. So when we're not Krishna conscious, means we're dreaming all the time. We're not in touch with reality. When we think about it, it's a very, unfortunate and very sad condition, because it means we don't know who we are, and without knowing who we are, we cannot be happy. So the birthright, as Prabhupada would nicely use that expression, birthright. The birthright of all living entities is to be happy. We are pleasure-seeking living entities by nature. Ishvara Paramat Krishna Sachit Anandamai. We are pleasure-seeking living entities. But our pleasure can only be awakened when we understand our subordinate position in terms of being. So Prabhupada uses the nice term also, employer. The real position or real employment for the jiva, for the living entity, is to find that position, like in, I suppose in any country, people seek government jobs because when you have a government job, you get a pension. It's more secure. But the only secure government job is actually devotional service to Krishna, because he's a permanent employer. When we become his employee, then we become his eternal employee. But not in the sense of material situation, because an employer or employee rather is always expecting, some benefits. But actually there is benefit. The eternal benefit is to be eternally in the association of the Lord and in the service of the Lord. Just another purport. Anyways, very nicely presented by Srila Prabhupada. So nowadays it's always been like that, but even more so, what is one of the biggest problems in the world today? Kalarupapu. Amongst all the different problems, all the big lists that you can make, what's one of the very he's meditating. One of the very prominent, very acute problems. Problem of loneliness. Loneliness. People are nowadays, even though we have opportunity to communicate with cell phones and whatnot, and we have all kinds of facilities to travel, people are lonely. More so than before. Families are, we've been talking about how the what is it? The family unit, family life is broken. And therefore, naturally, people are separated and lonely. So, I came to know about this a few years ago when I was visiting Sweden. Sweden claims to be a kind of a very advanced in different ways. But at that time, that was maybe 5 years back when I was visiting, some of the devotees were mentioning that even people who are living in Stockholm, see the big city, especially older people, but not only older people, the problem became so acute in Sweden that to address the problem, to try and resolve that problem, what did the government do? They created a ministry for loneliness, and they appointed a lonely minister. A minister for loneliness. Just imagine. A ministry for loneliness in the government. And I think in other countries, they might have followed suit as well.
Who are meant to be that loneliness department? Who are meant to be there in that loneliness, lonely?
The whole country. No, it's like there's a minister who's concerned about, it's like, you have a minister of sports or minister of education. So they hire people, they have people who are trying to reach out to people. See, they're all elderly people. In the Vedic times, that problem was not there. Why? Because elders is one of the, the part of the list of those who need a special care and attention. And because of the family was highly regarded, and there was extended families, so elders were valued. Elders were valued. And it is said, for example, in the Kautilya Arthashastra, that someone to be trained to become a king should especially seek out the association of elders, because they have so much of experience in life and knowledge, etc., like that. But in modern day society, even though somebody may be very educated, very learned and whatnot, it's like Prabhupada explains, people by nature, I mean, if they're not Krishna conscious, they don't like to deal with old people because they're busy in their own life, etc. And so, like when I was in Sweden, I was hearing things like, and there are elderly people who live by themselves, and maybe, during a 1 month period, nobody's going to visit them. So if you're not interacting with people, you're going to be lonely. And when you're lonely, you're not happy. You become, sad. And so many people actually end up committing suicide also because of that problem of loneliness. But even if we are with people, until and unless we come to know about our real original spiritual nature as eternal, servants of Krishna, as eternal servants, as eternal friends, as eternal lovers, according to the different rasa or relationship, because all of the different relationships in the material world, as we come to understand, are a perverted reflection of the original relationship in the spiritual world. So people by nature, isn't it? We like to have friends. That's what Facebook is all about. People are seeking friends or seeking relationships. But until and unless we connect and know about the possibility of developing a never-ending relationship, an eternal relationship with Krishna, then we will be missing out. We will be naturally lonely. So that's one of the greatest benefits of Krishna consciousness, is giving us that opportunity to again reconnect, to relink, to awaken and reestablish our loving relationship with Krishna, which is in the initial period is meant to be experienced actually with Krishna's devotees, isn't it? We can't immediately re-establish our relationship with Krishna. The process and the method by which to do that is through the spiritual master, through Vaishnavas. That is how we can gradually, that is one of the most, that is the beginning. That is the beginning and the foundation also of our Vaishnav philosophy, Sambandha Gyan, the science of relationship, isn't it? Uncovering our real identity. Not only Aham Brahmasmi, I am spirit in nature, but I am, what is that, the nature of that spiritual living entity? What is my actual relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna? So naturally, the residents of Dvārakā, they're already in that relationship with Krishna. And here specifically, we are hearing about the wives, the queens of Dvārakā, and the goddesses of fortune, who are constantly uncovering or discovering, constantly discovering, constantly finding their relationship with Krishna newer and newer. Yes. What is it? The Sanskrit? Novam. Yeah. Navam. Newer and newer. Yes. Pade pade. In every step. Some reflections or thoughts.
I have some.
Yes.
Can you spoke about the happiness and distress?
Happiness and distress.
Yeah.
Yes.
So people are in distress because they falsely recognizing their own identity and the nature of the world. And you spoke about the other type of happiness of the queens.
The
You
queens.
mentioned that there are a lot of different levels of people who have some experience of happiness, not necessarily the same level as the queens. So I heard that there is a happiness in goodness. Bhagavad Gita says that, Krishna says that. And there is a happiness in the association of devotees. Like at the beginning, everyone just found happy. Just hear the Harinam
Yes.
Sankirtan, we become happy.
Yes.
And there is another happiness when you got spiritual master's blessings and you get a initiation. So can you explain how these different levels are similar and also different?
Achinta
Like
Beda
from
Beda.
goodness, from beginning in the devotion, and then the solid devotional service and the eternal life. How it is different and similar, these happinesses?
Well, just like in the Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatmana Sochati Nakansiti. One who is above the bodily level, he experiences a certain type of satisfaction that is called Brahmananda, isn't it? That is of a lower level than what is described here. That is a lower level from devotional than Premananda, isn't it? But of course, a higher level than the ordinary so-called material happiness that people derive through different material activities. So there is material rasa and spiritual rasa. Rasa means attraction, means what brings happiness. The difference, so there are different levels which are more detailed in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, for example. The material, as we know, experience, material happiness is there is some happiness there, but that is very what is called chappala sukha, flickering, very temporary, and not really profound. Naturally, someone who rises, as you rightly mentioned, to the mode of goodness, then there's, because the mind is more peaceful, and so there's a certain kind of satisfaction, people in the mode of goodness, but it is not eternal, and generally it is not spiritual also. Mode of goodness is still at different times connected or influenced by the other gunas. And that mode of goodness that brings about some happiness is not so secure. It can change due to different circumstances that are taking place in the material world.
Like the demigods.
Like the demigods.
Happiness in the heaven, or some
Yeah.
attack comes and then
Right. Yes. So, well, the happiness for the demigods is still material happiness. So anything that is material will be limited and will be not actually what is it? Not be able to satisfy the actual hankerings of the soul of the jiva. Yeah. So therefore, from material happiness, from the material level, from material goodness, by cultivation of transcendental knowledge, by cultivation of devotional knowledge especially, which is of a higher nature, higher quality than just spiritual life, then gradually, just like in the Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Prabhupada, they explain how the different rasa, different levels of rasa, as one goes from one rasa to another, the happiness that one derives, like in Shantaras, is contained within Dasaras. And the happiness in Shantaras and Dasaras is contained gradually, in the higher levels, culminating in Madhurya Rasa. So it's a question of degree and intensity, and but even though that happiness may not always be present, or may not always be experienced, because sometimes, just like many years ago, I met one person, one devotee, one Bengali, was telling, well, I'm sure you've met such devotees who will say, I stopped chanting Hare Krishna. Why? I don't feel it. I'm not experiencing, transcendental happiness, so I stopped chanting. I stopped practicing devotional service. One does not understand that actually in the stage of sadhana, well, we're not always going to be experiencing ecstasy, isn't it? And as Lord Chaitanya also expresses in his Shikshastakam prayers, I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly in his embrace, or he may make me broken-hearted by not being present before me. I cannot experience his presence. I cannot feel his presence. But he's always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. That is. So sometimes there will be, you could say, dry periods, or periods where we don't seem to be connecting or experiencing this kind of satisfaction or transcendental happiness. That doesn't mean we should discontinue or even persons, devotees who are very elevated, we see this in the same kind of feeling is expressed actually in saints of other denominations, for example. So in other words, it's not, the goal is not just to be sitting in full ecstasy and enjoying and relishing. Oh, Krishna is so wonderful. Meantime, it's like the house is burning or whatever. So many things are taking place. So many living, jivas are lost in this material world. But so therefore, personalities like Srila Prabhupada and others, even though they are fully satisfied, fully satiated, fully happy, and situated in, living in places like Vrindavan, or they leave that position, that situation to bring Krishna consciousness to other less fortunate souls. So we should not fall in that trap of simply wanting to relish Krishna. That is a very important, I would say, instruction, very important aspect, which has been emphasized a lot by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Because that's a whole other discussion. There was not only was, but there still is actually a major kind of perception. Yeah, different perception, different take on what is most important. Amongst the children of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, as we know, there was especially Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who especially emphasized the aspect of Gosti Anandi, whereas his brother emphasized Lalit Prasad, Bhajan Anandi. Of course, both are bona fide, but of the two, our line is especially promoting. We are especially Gosti Anandis, preachers, not to the neglect of developing bhajan, or not to the neglect of of advancing spiritually and giving the necessary time also to perform bhajan. But we are not meant to be exclusively doing that to the neglect of preaching. And we are meant also, through preaching, that preaching mood, that preaching activity is meant to actually awaken within us what generally bhajan anandis are seeking. So it's a kind of a fine, line, and it's a very big topic, but important as well, which is not the right time at the end of a Bhagavatam class to introduce the topic, I suppose. But maybe at some future time we can spend a bit more time on that. It's important. But in regards to your question, yeah, there's a definite demarcation between material rasa, or material happiness, and spiritual. and within the spiritual realm, there are different gradation or different levels of happiness, transcendental happiness. But our goal is not simply, our goal is not to just to be independently happy. Vaishnavas, like our founder Charya, take on a lot of difficulties and problems, happily take on and accept such inconveniences, isn't it? For the pleasure of their spiritual master, and ultimately for the pleasure of Krishna, whose primary business or purpose when descending in the material world is dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge, to introduce the principles of dharma, and in this way give an opportunity to as many conditioned souls as possible to put an end to their conditional state. You're leaving this morning?
Yes.
Like in 10 minutes?
No. I'm leaving at 1, but it's...
I see, okay. Yeah, no problem. Yes. Any further thoughts or comments? Probably on the late side now. Yes. We can close for now. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki.
Jai.
Gauda Pimanandi.
Hari Hari Bol.